We spend so much time waiting for that one moment, don't we? The moment where everything makes sense, where we finally get the explanation, the apology, the closure that lets us move on without feeling like we've lost something. We tell ourselves that once we have that, then we'll be free. But here's the truth. Closure isn't something they give you, it's something you decide. We hold on to the past because we convince ourselves that if we just had that one last conversation, if we could just understand why they did what they did, if we could just hear them say, "I was wrong," then we'd be able to close the book and move forward. But let's be honest. How many times have you replayed a conversation in your head, rewritten their words, tried to find meaning in something they said or didn't say? The reality is, even if you got that conversation, you'd still be left with the same feelings because moving on was never about their words. It was about your choice. We chase closure because we don't want to sit with the uncertainty. We don't want to feel like we lost without knowing why. We think if we get the right explanation, it will hurt less. But what we're really doing is looking for permission to move forward. And I'm here to tell you, you don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You don't need them to make sense of something for you in order to take your next step. So what does it actually take? It takes a moment where you stop making them the center of your story. Because when you need closure from them, they still have power over your emotions. They still dictate how you feel. And if you allow someone else to control when and how you move on, you're giving them a level of influence over your life they never deserved in the first place. The person who left you, the person who hurt you, the person who didn't choose you in the way you wanted to be chosen, does not get to decide when you heal. They don't get to hold the keys to your peace of mind. They may have had a role in your past, but they do not have ownership over your future that is yours. And you reclaim it the moment you say, "I'm done waiting. I'm done expecting. I'm done needing anything from someone who is no longer a part of my life." Now, I know what you're thinking. That's easier said than done. And you're right, it's not easy. It's one of the hardest things you will ever do because it's comfortable to stay in the place where we believe that one conversation will change everything. It's comfortable to hold on to a fantasy that maybe, just maybe, they'll come back and make everything right. But holding on to that hope isn't healing. It's keeping you stuck in the past. And you don't belong there anymore. You move on when you decide to move on, not when they say the words you think you need to hear, not when they acknowledge the pain they caused, not when they finally understand what they did, because sometimes they won't. Sometimes they won't give you the apology you deserve. Sometimes they won't recognize the way they hurt you. And sometimes, even if they do, it won't change anything. Because healing was never about them in the first place. It was about you. So you have to create your own closure. And that starts with shifting your focus. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" start asking, "What do I do next?" Instead of replaying old conversations, start writing a new one. One where you are the main character. One where you aren't waiting for someone to validate your pain in order to move forward. And let's talk about moving forward, because I know that phrase can feel frustrating when you're in the middle of heartbreak. Moving forward doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It doesn't mean erasing the love you had or the memories or the lessons. It means acknowledging them, but not being defined by them. It means deciding that your happiness isn't tied to someone else's actions. It means realizing that even if you don't get the closure you thought you needed, you can still be okay. You can still wake up tomorrow and choose yourself. You don't have to hold on to something just because you don't have all the answers. You don't have to wait for someone else to recognize your worth in order for you to recognize it yourself. And you certainly don't have to keep looking back, hoping for something that is already behind you when everything you need is right in front of you. Closure is not a moment someone gives you. It's a moment you create for yourself. The moment you say, "I am done waiting. I am done wondering. I am done giving someone else the power to decide when my life moves forward." And that moment is now. When we go through a breakup, it's easy to get stuck in a cycle of thinking about the other person. We replay conversations, analyze their actions, and wonder if there was something we could have done differently. But here's the thing. Every time you do that, you're giving them space in your mind that they don't deserve anymore. You're handing them the pen and letting them write the next chapter of your life. It's time to take that pen back. You see, breakups make us forget who we were before we met that person. We start defining ourselves by the relationship, by the loss, by the pain. And that's dangerous, because when we do that, we stop seeing the incredible, unique individual that we are outside of them. The way to truly move on isn't to wait for time to heal the wounds. It's to actively take back control of your focus and place it where it belongs, on you. Think about it. How many times in the last week have you sat there scrolling through their social media, checking if they've moved on, seeing if they seem happier without you? Every time you do that, you're reinforcing the belief that they are the main character in your life. But they're not. You are. And the moment you start acting like it is the moment things start to shift. Right now, your energy is scattered. It's tied to them, to what they're doing, to what they're thinking. It's exhausting, isn't it? Imagine if you took all that energy and redirected it towards yourself. Imagine if, instead of wondering what they're up to, you focused on what excites you, what challenges you, what makes you feel alive. Because let's be honest, when was the last time you truly did something for yourself? Not as a distraction, not as a way to make them notice you, but purely because it brought you joy. It's time to shift your mindset from loss to opportunity. Right now, you have a rare chance to reinvent yourself, to explore new interests, build new relationships, and create a version of you that is even stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled than before. The question is, are you willing to take that chance? Let's get practical. If you want to move forward, you need to start making choices that serve you. First, stop engaging in habits that pull you back into the past. That means no more checking their social media, no more stalking their new life and feeding your insecurities. Every time you do that, you reopen a wound that is trying to heal. If you wouldn't keep picking at a cut on your arm, why do you keep picking at the emotional one in your heart? Next, fill the space they left. Not with another relationship, not with temporary distractions, but with things that genuinely enrich your life. Go back to that passion you neglected while you were with them. Sign up for that class, book that trip, start that project. When you start pouring your energy into your own life, you'll realize something incredible. You don't actually need them to feel whole. You were whole all along. You just forgot. And let's talk about confidence for a second. Right now, you might feel rejected, like you weren't enough, like if you had just been a little more of this or a little less of that, things would have been different. That's a lie. Their choice, their actions, their inability to see your worth, that's on them, not you. But you know what is on you? The way you show up for yourself now, the way you choose to rebuild, the way you decide every single day to become the person you know you're capable of being. And here's the most important part. You have to make yourself the priority again. That means setting standards. That means reminding yourself as often as it takes that your value doesn't decrease just because someone failed to recognize it. It means treating yourself with the love, respect, and care that you were so willing to give them. Because the moment you do that, you stop needing their validation. You stop waiting for them to miss you, to come back, to see what they lost. And instead, you realize that the person who truly needed to see your worth was you. So today, make a decision, a real one. Decide that you're done making them the center of your world. Decide that you're ready to reclaim your happiness. Decide that from this moment forward, the most important person in your life is you. Because when you do that, when you truly commit to it, something incredible happens. You stop looking back. You stop wishing for what was, and instead you start building something even better. Something that belongs entirely to you. We all have that moment when the person we're trying to move on from suddenly pops into our head. It happens when you're walking down the street, when you're trying to focus on work, or even when you're just making a cup of coffee. That one thought leads to another, and before you know it, you're spiraling. Going over old conversations, imagining different endings, wondering what they're doing, who they're with. if they ever think about you, it feels like a loop you can't escape. Like your brain is holding you hostage in a reality that no longer exists. But here's the thing, just because your mind invites you into that loop doesn't mean you have to accept the invitation. Right now, you might feel like these thoughts are automatic, uncontrollable. You don't choose to think about them, it just happens, right? But the truth is, you have far more control than you think. Every time your mind drags you back into that familiar, painful loop, you have the power to interrupt it, and you need to. Because if you don't, that loop will dictate your emotions, your actions, and ultimately your future. The first step in breaking the loop is awareness. Most people don't even realize they're doing it. They think, I'm just processing. I'm just trying to understand what happened. But processing is one thing. Rehashing is another. Processing helps you learn. Rehashing just keeps you stuck. So the next time you find yourself going down that road, catch yourself in the moment. Say to yourself, I see what's happening. I've been here before. I know where this leads, and I don't have to go there again. Once you've caught yourself, you need to immediately change your state, emotionally, mentally, and physically. If you're sitting down, stand up. If you're inside, step outside. If you're alone, call a friend. Do something, anything, that forces your mind to shift gears. The worst thing you can do is just sit there and let the loop continue. That's how you get trapped. That's how 5 minutes turns into an hour, how an hour turns into a whole day, wasted, thinking about someone who isn't even in your life anymore. Another powerful way to break the cycle is to redirect your focus onto something that demands your attention. When you're lost in thought about them, your brain is idle, it has space to wander. You need to occupy that space. Pick up a book, start a workout, work on a project that excites you. Even better, do something that challenges you. When your mind is engaged in solving a problem, in creating something, in pushing itself, it doesn't have the bandwidth to dwell on the past. You're giving it a new job, a better job. But let's be real. Sometimes, even when you do all of this, the thoughts still creep back in. And when that happens, you need to remind yourself of a simple but brutal truth. Obsessing over someone who has moved on, who is living their life, possibly without a second thought about you, is the fastest way to waste your own time. That thought alone should shake you. Why should they still have space in your mind when they've already left your life? You deserve better than that. And deep down, you know it. The real turning point comes when you stop seeing this as something happening to you and start seeing it as something you control. Right now, it might feel like these thoughts are an unstoppable force, but they're not. They are patterns, and patterns can be broken. The more you practice interrupting these loops, the easier it becomes. You train your brain to stop entertaining the same old thoughts, to stop indulging in the fantasy of what if. You start reclaiming your power, your focus, your life. So the next time the loop begins, don't sit with it, don't feed it, interrupt it. Move, engage, redirect. Do whatever it takes to remind yourself that your future is ahead of you, not behind you. And the sooner you break the cycle, the sooner you'll realize that you were never actually stuck. You were just repeating the same story. Now, it's time to write a new one. There's a reason people stay stuck in the past long after a relationship ends. It's not because they don't know they should move on. It's not even because they still want the person back. It's because whether they realize it or not, they keep feeding the pain by staying connected to the very things that remind them of what they lost. When you're trying to let go of someone, the first thing to understand is that you're not just battling feelings, you're battling habits. Your brain has been wired to associate this person with your sense of security, validation, and even identity. And so, without realizing it, you reach for them in ways that might seem harmless, but are actually keeping you stuck. The late night scroll through their social media, the rereading of old messages, the lingering glance at a photo of the two of you smiling. Each of these is a trigger that reactivates your emotional attachment. It's like picking at a wound and wondering why it won't heal. This is why you have to create distance, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And that starts with cutting off the triggers that keep pulling you back in. It means making a conscious decision to stop engaging in the things that reignite the hope, the fantasy, or even the pain that ties you to them. Now, some people will tell you to just delete them from your life, block their number, erase their pictures, and move on. And yes, sometimes you do need a clean break. But what really matters is understanding that detoxing from someone isn't just about getting rid of the reminders. It's about getting rid of the emotional dependency those reminders create. Because let's be honest, blocking someone doesn't always mean they're gone from your mind. You have to start recognizing when you're feeding the addiction. Every time you check their profile, you're giving yourself another dose of the drug you're trying to quit. You're reinforcing the belief that they still matter more than your own peace of mind. And the worst part? Every time you see something you don't like, maybe they're out with someone new, maybe they're happy without you, it sends you spiraling, questioning everything, making you feel even worse than before. And what do? You go back and check again the next day, and the cycle continues. So, how do you actually break free? It starts with honesty. Be brutally honest about what's keeping you tied to them. Is it the fear of being alone? The fear that no one else will make you feel the way they did? The belief that they were your only shot at love? The moment you get real about what's making it so hard to let go, you take the first step in regaining control. Then, take action. If seeing their name pop up in your contacts tempts you to reach out, delete it. If old pictures keep you trapped in nostalgia, archive them. You don't need to throw them away forever if you're not ready, but you do need to remove them from your daily environment. Because right now, those things aren't memories, they're chains. And let's talk about social media, because this is where so many people get stuck. Maybe you think, I don't need to block them, I can handle it. But the truth is, every time you accidentally check their stories or scroll through their posts, you're keeping the wound open. If unfollowing feels too harsh, ask yourself, who are you really protecting? Them or your own attachment to the past? Because every time you keep that door open, even just a crack, you're leaving room for them to walk right back into your mind. The real challenge, though, isn't just in removing the reminders. It's in resisting the urge to replace them with distractions that numb the pain instead of healing it. Some people throw themselves into rebounds, thinking a new person will erase the old one. Others bury themselves in work, hoping that staying busy will make them forget. But here's the thing, numbing doesn't equal healing. If you don't take the time to actually process the loss, to sit with the discomfort of letting go, you're just postponing the inevitable. Break the habit of checking, of reminiscing, of keeping them mentally within reach is the moment you start creating space for something new. And here's the most important part. You have to fill that space with things that genuinely serve you. If your life has been revolving around this person, then detoxing from them isn't just about removing them, it's about rebuilding you. This is your chance to create a new routine, to rediscover the things that make you feel alive outside of a relationship. Reconnect with friends you may have neglected. Pick up a new passion. Throw yourself into self-improvement. Make your life so full that the thought of checking on them feels like an afterthought, not an obsession. Every time you resist the urge to go back to old patterns, you're proving to yourself that you don't need them to feel whole. Every time you choose to focus on yourself instead of what they're doing, you're reclaiming your power. And eventually, without even realizing it, you wake up one day and they're just gone. Not because they disappeared, but because they no longer occupy space in your mind. That's the real freedom you're looking for. We do this thing where we take the past and polish it up like a trophy. We don't remember the fights, the disappointments, the ways we felt unseen or unappreciated. No, we remember the highlight reel. We play back the laughter, the deep conversations, the way they looked at us in that one perfect moment. And we let that version of the past dictate how we feel in the present. But let me tell you something. The past, when remembered incorrectly, is the biggest lie we tell ourselves. There's a reason it ended. There's a reason you're standing here now trying to let go. And if you're struggling, it's not because you're weak. It's because you're fighting a version of the past that never actually existed. We love to create this fantasy where they were perfect, or the relationship was perfect, and if only we had done something differently, if only we had held on tighter, if only. But here's the truth. If it was really that perfect, you wouldn't be in this position right now. The danger of romanticizing the past is that it keeps you emotionally stuck. You're not just missing them, you're missing an illusion, a version of them that doesn't exist anymore, maybe never did. And the more you hold on to that illusion, the more you stop yourself from seeing things clearly. You might think you're mourning what you lost, but what you're really mourning is the version of the relationship you created in your mind. It's like watching an old movie and convincing yourself you're still living in it, even though the story ended, the credits rolled, and the screen has gone dark. So how do you break free from this? You start by being honest with yourself, not just about the good, but about the whole picture. You stop telling the story where they were everything and you were nothing without them. You stop filtering out the bad parts. You stop ignoring the nights you cried yourself to sleep, the times you felt alone, even when they were right beside you. The way you kept trying to prove your worth instead of simply being accepted for who you are. That's what you have to remember. Not because you need to hold on to resentment or bitterness, but because you need to stop living in a version of reality that doesn't exist. Nostalgia is tricky like that. It makes us crave things we don't actually want. It makes us miss things that, if we really looked at them honestly, we wouldn't choose to relive. And let's talk about the most dangerous thing about this whole illusion. When you romanticize the past, you compare every new experience to something that was never real in the first place. You meet someone new, and instead of seeing them for who they are, you measure them against this fantasy version of your ex. No one stands a chance because they're competing with a memory that's been edited, refined, and exaggerated by your emotions. And that means you're not moving forward. You're staying stuck. I want you to try something. Think of the hardest moment you had with this person. The moment you felt the most alone, the most unheard, the most disappointed. The moment you realized deep down that this wasn't right, that you deserved better. Sit with that memory for a second, because that is just as real as all the good times you've been clinging to. And if you're going to remember all of it. The past is not a place you should want to live. It's a place to learn from, a place to visit, only when you need a reminder of how far you've come. And if you're still struggling, remind yourself of this. The person you miss is gone, not just physically, but emotionally. The relationship is gone. And trying to bring it back in your mind, trying to hold on to something that is no longer yours, is only delaying the life you're meant to be living. You will love again. You will feel excitement again. You will wake up one day and not even think about them anymore. But none of that happens if you keep looking backward. So don't just let go of them. Let go of the story you've been telling yourself about them. Let go of the fantasy that's keeping you stuck. Because your future is waiting, and it's better than anything you're leaving behind. This is your moment to raise your standard, to redefine what you're willing to accept, what you truly deserve, and what you refuse to tolerate ever again. And that starts with looking back, not with nostalgia, not with regret, but with clarity. Too often, when we're trying to move on from someone, we either paint them as this flawless being we lost or demonize them completely. But the truth is, neither version is real. The reality is in between. And that's where your lesson is. What did you accept in that relationship that deep down you knew wasn't right for you? What were the little moments you brushed aside because you didn't want to rock the boat? The red flags you excused? The ways you shrunk yourself just to keep the peace? That's where your work begins. Moving on isn't just about letting go of them. It's about letting go of the version of yourself that tolerated what wasn't good enough, that put up with being breadcrumbed, that stayed too long in a dynamic that didn't make you feel truly valued. You don't just get over someone, you grow past them. And growth only happens when you make the decision that next time it's going to be different, not because you got lucky, not because someone better magically appeared, but because you decided to set a higher bar. And I get it. When we care about someone, we make excuses. We convince ourselves that what we're getting is enough, or that if we just try harder, they'll change. But that's not love. That's fear. Fear that we won't find something better. Fear that maybe we're asking for too much. Fear that we'll regret walking away. But let's be honest. How many times have you looked back at a situation you outgrew and thought, thank God I left? Because in hindsight, it's always clear. The only question is, how quickly do you want to get to that clarity? You set the tone for what you accept. And if you don't do the work to reset those standards, you'll end up repeating the same patterns with different people. This isn't about becoming bitter. It's not about closing yourself off or deciding that love isn't worth it. It's about valuing yourself enough to only invest in people who meet you at your level. If you lower your standards just to keep someone, you're not really keeping them. You're just slowly losing yourself. There's this idea that moving on means finding someone new, that the best way to get over someone is to replace them. And while sure, distraction can make things easier in the short term, the real work happens when you're on your own, because this is when you get to build something so strong inside yourself that you never have to rely on someone else for your sense of worth. This is when you get to decide who you're going to be moving forward, not just what you want in love, but what you're going to bring to the table, because love isn't just about what you get, it's about what you create together. And if you're still carrying old wounds, still holding on to the past, still operating from the same place of insecurity or fear, then you're just setting yourself up for the same experience all over again. So what do? You start by taking an honest look at what you deserve, not what you think you can get, not what someone else tells you is reasonable, what you deep down truly deserve. The kind of connection where you feel seen, where you feel heard, where you don't have to chase or prove your worth. And then you commit to not settling for anything less. Not because you're being picky, not because you're difficult, but because life is too short to spend it begging for the bare minimum. When you do this work, something incredible happens. You stop feeling the need to chase people who aren't choosing you. You stop wasting energy on people who make you feel like an option. And that's when the right people, the ones who truly see you, who appreciate you, who match your effort, start to come into your life, because you're no longer operating from a place of scarcity. You're no longer afraid of being alone. You're no longer settling just to fill a void. The truth is, moving on isn't just about forgetting someone. It's about remembering yourself, remembering who you were before them, or maybe finally becoming the version of you that you were always meant to be. And when you do that, when you raise your standards, when you stop settling, when you decide that you're worthy of the kind of love you truly want, you don't just move on, you rise above.